Good to have you with us this morning. We're tracking the White House, the markets, and the latest in the Middle East. You can join the conversation on Getter, YouTube, Rumble right now. Check in with Wall Street as we head towards the opening bell. A steady performance on Wall Street yesterday, the first trading day since the war began in Iran. The Dow Jones down 73 points, closing just under 49,000. The NASDAQ up 80 points, ending at 22,748, excuse me. Early swings settled in as the day went on. So far, markets are proving more resilient than many expected. Oil moving higher, U.S. crude closing at $71 a barrel, just up 6%. Global benchmark Brent finishing near $78, up close to 7%. That's our check on the market as we head towards the opening bell. But joining us now to talk more about that is Michael Wickerson. He's the founder of Stonewall Advisors. Michael, your reaction to the markets on this Tuesday morning and what we can expect towards the opening bell.
Good morning, Brian. I think what we're seeing is continued concern about the effects of the conflict, and it's really being split between what you talked about, the equity markets, which are nervous and slightly down, managed to regain territory yesterday, and the commodity markets, which are most likely affected by the physical transport and issues around the war. A couple of cases in point. You mentioned that Brent oil, so European trading of oil, up about 8%. That's the same that's happening here in the U.S. for West Texas Intermediate. The real big shocker, though, is liquid natural gas prices, LNG prices in Europe, up over 40% in early trading today. And that is because yesterday Qatar announced that they were they were shutting down the supply of LNG. They're the largest or second largest producer in the world. They supply a lot of Asia and some of the European markets. That's going to be a real problem for Europe going forward. Fortunately for the U.S., we have our own LNG supply, as we do have an abundance of our own oil. So we are somewhat insulated, but over time, these prices start to matter and start to affect what consumers pay at retail.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. And for people watching at home, they see these spikes across the board in the energy sector. The timeline between you see the spike and you start to feel it when you actually put gas in your vehicle, it could be weeks, months. What do you think? What is that timeline?
You know, it's a good question. It's typically weeks, but I have to say it's sort of asymmetrical, meaning that when these gas companies see the prices are rising, they are much quicker to raise prices at the pump than they are on the downside when prices are falling. So when prices are rising, it might be only a 1 or 2 week lag. When prices are falling, it could be 3 to 4 weeks as those companies try to maintain their profit margins. So even as early as this week, we might see impact at the pump as some decision makers start to lift prices to anticipate the rising cost of oil.
Yeah. So as this escalation moves on, and some say it could go for a month, and obviously I think we all want it to be shorter than longer. What toll does that take on the market, or does the market already factor the war aspect in? But the longer the war go, the longer we look at more of a kind of a downturn in the market.
So I think you raise a good point. The market, I do believe, was anticipating a move like we saw over the weekend. President Trump, the administration, were to a degree telegraphing what was going to happen, and it happened according to script. And so the market did largely build in it. Brian, I'm actually worried about another part of the market, which isn't general or related to the war specifically, and that is we are seeing a rising level of defaults in what's called the private credit market. This is non-bank lending into the software companies, the AI companies. We're seeing a big spike there. And why do I raise it as a concern? That is the kind of thing that we saw in the global financial crisis, where non-bank lenders, in that case into mortgages, in this case into AI and elsewhere, start to get into trouble because they're overspending, overinvesting, too much debt against it. And that, in turn, can have a contagion effect on the rest of the market. That's where I'm keeping my eyes out this week and into March to see where that goes.
You know, Michael, real quickly, does the consumer spending habits change under a time of war? Are people buying less cars, going out and buying a house? What effect does war have on consumer spending? I'm curious to know if there's any historicals on that?
There's a lot of precedents that say that consumer products become scarce because companies start to reallocate towards defense, more companies, more industry. We're seeing that happen, of course. We're going to have to replenish armaments and munitions, as you just discussed with your previous guest. We have some issues here. And one thing to be sure is a war is always inflationary. As those goods become more scarce, as resources get diverted to other needs, the cost of goods, whether it's because of the rising price of oil, energy impacts almost every other market. You can expect in a wartime economy to see inflationary pressures and prices rise, which of course is never great for the consumer.
That's great stuff, Michael. Hey, how can somebody follow you on social media, website? You've got some great information. What's the best place for that?
On X, MW_Stormwall. Also, you can find me on stormwall.com, where I keep all my articles and video interviews such as this. Thanks for asking, Brian.
Absolutely. Good. We appreciate you coming on, your wealth of knowledge, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, Michael.
Next time.
Thank you.